Yeah. Welcome to World Harmony Can It Happen? I'm your host, Stuart Thomas, and tonight we're going to split the show in half. In the first half, we're going to look at resilience for climate change, and I'll introduce my guest in just a moment. And for the second half of the show, we're going to be talking about the upcoming 33rd annual Tucson Peace Fair and Music Festival coming up on the last Saturday of February. But we're going to start with a resiliency for climate change. And I'd like to introduce Emily Ricketts, who's our guest tonight. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you.
We did have another guest scheduled, but she had a personal emergency, so she wasn't able to come. And Emily was gracious enough to be here. I say that particularly because it's her first time ever on television.
Yes.
And so I credit you. It's the first time's, well, I guess it's the third time's a charm, but the first time in this case hopefully will be a charm. Anyway, Emily, we're going to talk about climate change, but how did you get interested and involved in this subject?
Well, I've heard the topic for a number of years now, and I have a bit of a science background, and so I've never denied that climate change was happening. I remember reading Rachel Carson's book many years ago, Silent Spring, and that impressed me quite a bit, many years ago actually for me.
Well, that's from the 60s as I remember.
Yes, or maybe earlier.
Well, maybe.
But anyway, and I was impressed with that book. And so as it was becoming more of a interest to the public, and the sciences and the information and all, I decided that was something that I wanted to get involved in, because my whole thing is if we can't survive, many other issues that are important certainly, but they're not as important as the basic living healthy and decently. So I heard about the conference that was going to happen a couple of years ago in 2013, a weekend conference on climate change, and here in Tucson. And I got involved with the working group, as it has turned out to be, whose coordinator was Donna Branch Gilby, and I had known her from years prior. And so it was a chance to meet up with her and work with her. Yes, yes, she is.
But so are you. I've known you for a number of years too, although it's been a while since we've met with each other again.
So anyway, I signed up to go to the conference. It was Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday event. And the main speaker was the author of this book, Eric Kleinenberg. And the title of the book is Heat Wave, and it's a social autopsy of disaster in Chicago.
Wow.
So I bought the book at the conference after hearing him speak.
Hold it up so we can show it on the camera. There we go. Okay. Thank you.
And anyway, it's a fascinating book. It's a lot of facts and figures and graphs and commentary from politicians and whatever about what happened in Chicago. And in
what years are we talking about for the heat wave?
The heat wave itself happened July 12th, 1995.
Okay.
And I just have a brief paragraph the first paragraph of the book, and it says, on Wednesday morning, 12 July 1995, the Chicago Sun-Times reported that a heat wave was headed for the city. An article proclaiming, quote, heat wave on the way and it can be a killer, end quote, ran on page 3 of the news section instead of on the weather page. Forecasters were predicting that the temperature would reach the mid-90s that afternoon and stay near 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the next 2 days. Sorry. The humidity and ozone levels also would be high, making the air feel like tropical, as if Chicago were in Fiji or Guam.
Wow.
The heat index, which measures the temperature that a typical person would feel, would top 120 degrees. Wow. Now, it goes on from there to talk about what happened in the ensuing days when this heat wave came. And
excuse me for interrupting, but I want to explain why I chuckled. For a Tucsonan, over 100 degrees tends to, I mean, we're used to that in the summer.
Yeah.
And we bless our winters because they're so much nicer than most of the country gets. But I am from New York City, and I know about humidity plus the heat and the temperature humidity index kind of thing. And if the index was 120, that's very hot.
Yes.
And I think back in New York that the kids would turn on the fire extinguisher things when it got above 90.
Yeah.
So if for you Tucsonans who are thinking, well, you know, it's not all that bad. We've gotten, I think it was high as 114 here in the summer.
I know.
Yeah, but we don't have the humidity that some of these other places
Well,
have.
I'm from Ohio, and so
Oh,
I know
so you
about,
know.
yeah, heat and humidity and all of that, and lived in New York as well.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it was a catastrophe that happened, and when you talk about turning on the fire hydrants, that's what the kids did.
That's
and of
what they
course,
did
the
in New
lower
York.
pressure, fire trucks couldn't get through, and just it was a terrible, terrible thing that happened. Anyway, he goes on to describe 2 neighborhoods that one was an African American community and the other one Hispanic, and they were close to each other. They had similar demographics, populations, and all of that. There were no deaths in the Hispanic community, but quite a few in the African American community.
Wonder why that
was. Well, essentially, there was a lot of analysis of what had happened. Essentially, what he says is that with all of the scientists, the analysis and all, and the blame of the politicians and the mayor and all of that stuff that went on, in doing his autopsy, social autopsy of these 2 communities, that what it turned out to be was that the neighborhood that the Hispanic community didn't have any deaths because there was people acted as neighbors. And that for all of the like I said, analysis that went on, it turned out that people who care, who are involved with each other, that is what saved that community. And it was the lack of that that caused so many of the deaths in the African American community. So my interest in the working group that I got involved in, and we're still doing our work. And one of the things that we have done is to produce a manual over these couple of years now since the conference, was to put together, examine our neighborhoods, and to put together a manual to tell people, advise people how to evaluate their communities and what they need to do to prevent any kind of catastrophic things happening. I mean, things are going to happen, but to be prepared.
Your group is really quite a group, actually. You're part, a division of the Physicians for Social Responsibility.
Yes.
And then beyond that, there's a group of that. Let me think. I'm looking right my notes here. Well, why don't you tell us? There's the larger group, And then there's a group within the group, and then there's a subgroup which you belong to about the resiliency.
Well, the overall group is Physicians of Social Responsibility. And they're the ones, Dr. Barbara Warren is the director of the Arizona chapter. They're the ones that sponsored that conference that I mentioned back in 2013. Out of that, working groups with different focus of attention were formed. And like I said, I got involved with the one that deals with vulnerable and resilient communities. And I've been working with them ever since. So I think there were originally 7 working groups. The conference was split up into different focus groups. And we did our vulnerable communities did a workshop over the course of that weekend. And
where was it held?
Oh dear.
Oh.
You would ask me that. One of the major new buildings downtown. I'm not sure.
Tucson? No,
yeah, here in Tucson.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
I didn't mean a specific
Oh,
location.
okay. No, here.
No, here in Tucson.
Anyway, but it was
Wait a minute. I remember because I had Barbara Warren on a show in the summer. It was at TEP.
That's what I thought.
The new TEP building.
That's what I thought, but I
didn't
wasn't
realize
sure.
that I had the answer in my head when I asked the question.
Okay, good. Okay, we're on the right track. Same track anyway.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, was a huge attendance of the public. And like I said, it was a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday. And anyway, we held a workshop and we did demonstrations that we had already decided to do at the workshop. We had sign-ups for the different working groups. And I think we had about 50 people who attended ours, and which was very, very encouraging to us.
Emily,
because,
I think we shouldn't go too long on this because we want to cover your plan too.
Okay.
And we only have about 25 minutes to half an hour. So if you want to wrap up, you go ahead and do that. But I know there's more to cover.
Well, anyway, I'll mention the manual again, and that we have a facilitator's guide that we work from to explain the manual. And we have 3 topics. 1, assess your readiness. 2, change vulnerable to resilient. And 3, prepare for a challenging future. And this booklet, it takes about an hour to do each presentation. And what we ask as the people who attend these things is, and they're free, no cost, is to come and we talk about 3 areas. One is called the Community Cohesion Scale.
And you mentioned the importance of that from your illustration in Chicago.
Yes.
The idea of the cohesion,
yes.
which so there was a lower death rate because of the working together.
Right. Yes.
Wow.
And this was set up for us by Yvonne Merrill, who lives in the Brickta neighborhood. And
I haven't a clue where that is.
Oh,
but.
well, okay. Doesn't matter.
In Tucson.
It's not yours. Anyway, the scale goes from 1 to 5, 1 being the least cohesive community, 5 being the most. And there are some points here, evaluation points of how to rate your particular community.
Why don't you give a few examples?
Well, for one, people talk to each other in several ways, either in person, by phone, or email, or in meetings. So people get together. If you have a neighborhood association, which I have a very active one where I live in Ward 6. And we have an annual meeting coming up, and I'm going to be doing this manual presentation at that meeting in March. I'm also going to be doing one for the African American Retirees Association, which I belong to, in March as well. Anyway, you rate the people.
Excuse me, for more information about that, you might go to the website.
Yes.
And why don't we say the website now?
Okay, the website is psr.org/AZ Climate. It's not, yes, it's right there. And
say it twice, if you will.
Okay,
if you're grabbing a pencil.
psr.org/AZ climate.
Very good.
And you can actually get this manual printed out from here and or from the website if you like, and a lot more information. Anyway, I was saying we evaluate the community based on this 5-point scale, 1 to 5, and that when your group is meeting, and that helps you to determine how to assess your readiness, how ready your community is.
Now, there are a bunch of points, though, not just the
Oh,
one or
yes.
two that we mentioned. Why don't you mention maybe one or two more?
Okay, people in that community or in that group visit each other's homes and do things together outside the neighborhood because they are friends. For example, my community, we're going to have a neighborhood yard sale, and we've been doing this for years. So we get together, we get to see each other once a year, and most homes participate in it. But you're walking down the street, we have a local park, fortunately, in our area, and a Y where we have our meetings. So the thing is evaluating your neighborhood and see what is there, what isn't there, what might be there, could be improved upon, so that you get to be neighbors and you're neighborly. So anyway, that's one part. The second part is change vulnerable to resilient. And what that means is that you identify in your area the people who are homeless, perhaps, who are living in isolation or seem to be not involved at all in community. People know about, oh, the lady down the street, we never see her, and maybe once every other day she comes to get her mail. People like this, and they found in that Chicago that a lot of that existed. These people did not know each other. People didn't know the people who were alone. The people who have disabilities in your community. I know we have several people in wheelchairs that wheel up and down my street past my house, and I get to see them. We speak to each other, and so the thing is to get to know the homes that are falling apart, the homes that seem to be need repair. Maybe knock on the door and find out, can I help in some way or other? Can we do anything to help? And also the elderly in your neighborhood, especially elderly who live alone. So those are risk factors. There are others that are in this booklet that you identify, and you try to make some approaches to solve these problems or to approach these people.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that we've started with the book and heat, but actually this can pertain to any emergency based, any natural occurring emergency. If you're living, for instance, in the Philippines, it could be a volcano.
Yes.
Or if you're living in the Netherlands, it could be a flood.
Yeah, or an earthquake.
Or an earthquake in California, for instance.
Yes.
And here we don't tend to have those things. I've heard of very minor earthquakes here, but here we have other problems. Lack of water, for instance, is a possible one.
Well, the thing is that there are so many catastrophic things that can happen, like the electricity goes out. You know, if it's extremely hot weather, everybody's using air conditioners, and then you get the brownouts and the blackouts, and the lack of the water. Maybe the supermarket, they don't have electricity, so the freezers, the food in the freezers melt as well as, or defrost as well as in your home. So there are lots of things that this booklet goes into.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that as you were talking, it occurred to me the Hurricane Katrina came into my mind for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a hurricane, and depending on where you're living, it could be any natural disaster.
Right? Yeah. Exactly.
Go ahead.
Anyway, the other thing is these were distributed at the conference that I mentioned in 2013. And the government puts these out. Now, this is a 72-hour preparation kit, and that explains in here what you need to do, a kit that you can put together. But the thing is that with climate change, it's going to be more than 72 hours. And so this is for starters, but we also go into the booklet here there are resources, references of more education about what can happen, things that you can do. I'm getting together more materials to disseminate to the people, the groups that I am going to be speaking with about what they can do to prepare themselves. But the main thing is people caring. And for the mentally ill, there's information about that and what we can do to help people after identifying whatever. And the basic thing is trust. We have to learn to trust and care about each other. And some of this is difficult because we have a big privacy issue in this country. But at the same time, we've got to overcome that in order for all of us to survive as best we can. So,
you know what frightens me about the climate change, among other things. I mean, obviously, it's more than this one thing. But coming from New York, it's from the Atlantic Ocean. And from what I understand, the ocean's rising.
Yes.
And I love the people, not everybody in New York. I mean, there are some very nice.
Yeah.
I got friends and still in New York. I want them to be safe. I have someone that I used to be involved with in the Netherlands, and you know, I hate to see the water rising and maybe eliminating coastal properties of various countries. I mean, I mentioned a couple of them, but anywhere the ocean touches, it could be a problem.
True.
And that worries me. I don't want New York, you know, to not exist anymore. Now, I'm not saying it's that bad at this point, but when water keeps rising and rising, it's not going to be looking good. The other thing, I have that vision of a polar bear on a block of ice, alone. I realize this is,
yes.
you know, and it's shrinking. And like, what's that polar bear going to do?
Yeah, it's happening already. I mean, if you watch some of the documentaries on television or some of the movies that are out, or even on line, you can see evidence. There's plenty of evidence of what is happening to Mother Earth. So it's not just your own home or your neighbors and your community, but it's worldwide. And there's a big concern about it. And I think today they're saying that there are very few deniers, at least I think the majority of scientists really do believe, or not just believe, but know that climate change is happening. And it is affecting different places more severely than other places. But the thing is, here in Tucson, we need a concern, because I was here during that, I think it was 114 degrees.
I was
It ain't
saying,
pretty.
I think that's our high in Tucson.
Yeah,
in Phoenix,
something like
I think
that.
it gets to 121 or something.
But the thing is, it could go higher than that.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, it's a matter of being prepared, knowledge, first of all, knowledge, being prepared, finding the resources, and doing the assessments, and carrying on from there.
And having the neighborhood plan, I think that's really very helpful. What you
Yes.
mentioned about
Yeah.
you're going to be giving a talk at a neighborhood association.
Yeah, in my local one, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and that made a difference in Chicago, whether people cooperated or didn't,
Yes.
in according to that book.
Yeah.
So that's important. Well, let's go on with this a bit. We talked about the, let's see, cohesion, and we talked about, well, who's vulnerable, but we talked about some vulnerability. By the way, I think one of the big issues of climate change is how much of it is man-made and how much of it isn't. But in my opinion, either way, we need to do
It's a
something
problem.
about it.
Yes.
Either way. You can argue either way. But we got to do something, otherwise we won't have the same planet as years to come.
Exactly, and that's what the scientists and the researchers are saying, that we have to pay attention. And the man-made, I guess there are still people who debate about that, but there's plenty of evidence that we humans are responsible for a lot of this.
Well,
and so
either
therefore,
way,
causing it,
we need to do something.
Yes.
I certainly, a lot of industry does impact, but even people who defend that, it's still going to affect, the climate change is going to affect everybody no matter what the reason.
exactly. And
So we need to pay attention.
yes, and it already has.
Yes, I agree.
And some places, as I said, worse than other places. So
Yeah, I won't get in the environment, but it does occur to me. I've read recently about oil getting into a waterway of the United States. I forget which one. I think it was Yellowstone
Yes,
River.
yes.
But that's not climate change. That's the environment.
well, the
and all
environment,
that.
but it's still, that's the umbrella of the environment. We still
Yeah.
have to be, as they say, good stewards of the earth. And whether it's eliminating fossil fuels and going to more natural energy resources, that we need to pay attention and do what we can while there's still time before our earth is so polluted and so damaged.
You know, if it gets to a certain point, it may not be recoverable, like a human being.
Well,
If it gets to be too bad, the person may not recover.
Well, yes, that's one of the fears. And there are the people who say, well, religion, God will save us. But other people are saying, yeah, but God is telling us already.
You know, I know a little story about.
Stories about
you
that
know
sort
about
of
that?
thing. Oh, yeah.
About the river that was rising, and a guy is concerned about it, so he goes on his roof, and it keeps rising and rising, and a rowboat comes by, and they say, "Come on, get it." No, the Lord will take care of me. Your God will take care. And then I think a helicopter came by. There were 3 things that came by.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay. God will take care of me. So he drowns.
Yeah.
And he goes to the pearly gates, and he says, God, I thought you were going to take care of me. He said, well, I sent you a rowboat, a helicopter, and I forget the third thing.
Yeah.
And, you know,
that's a famous
we
one.
have to do something ourselves, too.
That's right. And recognize that things are happening and we're
yeah.
being told things and pay attention. Yes.
Now, I want to give the website once more.
Okay.
So that people
It
can
is
write it down.
psr.org, AZ Climate.
Okay, I think
And
we
it's
have
not
one there.
case sensitive.
Oh,
you
I'm
can
sorry.
use-
So say one more
it's
time.
not case
No, I
sensitive.
mean, say PSR.
PSR,
Yeah.
which stands for Physicians of Social Responsibility,
Right.
.org /AZ for Arizona, climate, CLIMATE. And
Well-
that'll take you directly to the website where you can find lots and lots of information.
Well, that's why I wanted to give the website, because we only got partly through what we wanted to cover. But this way, they have somewhere to go, and also to get more information, and maybe get involved too, or maybe start their own group
Yes.
too.
Yeah, so there are references there of contacting the working group, and we have about 15 of us who can come out. We can make arrangements, make an appointments that we can come out with the materials and do a presentation for you and train other people to do presentations for that matter as well. And our material is also in Spanish.
Well, that's good for people who, you know, when it's bilingual. That's the best way.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you, time has run out. But that's why I wanted to give the org, you know, .org email, not email, but website.
Okay.
But Emily Ricketts, I want to thank you for being on the show,
And thank you for having me.
and I applaud
And-
you. This is your first time ever, and you did very well.
Well, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
hope so.
I enjoyed talking with you, and I hope our audience enjoyed listening.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. We're now going to tell you how to reach us at World Harmony Can It Happen? And we're going to go to our second part of the show, which is about the upcoming 33rd Annual Tucson Peace Fair and Music Festival. And we'll introduce our guests after they get seated. In the meantime, you can see on your screen for your programming ideas, your suggestions, your comments. You can reach us by calling 520-722-2837. You probably have to dial a 1 in front of the 520, but anyway, at least locally we do. Anyway, the 520-722-2837. Or you can send us an email at forwardtofulfillment@yahoo.com. Now, I caution you, I know it's long. It can all be in small letters, although originally I had the capital F for forward, but I don't think it really matters. But if you misspell one letter, which I have done sending something to myself, it won't go through. So I have accidentally left out the R, but it's FORWARD, TO, FUL, 1L, FILL, 2 L's, MENT at yahoo.com. I've accidentally put an extra L in there, FULL. It's not, it's FUL, FILLMENT. So there it is on the screen, 520-722-2837, or forward to fulfillment at yahoo.com. And I think we're about ready to introduce our guests. Well, welcome to the show, Mary and Robert. This part of the show is a preview of the 33rd Annual Tucson Peace Fair and Music Festival.
Yes.
And Mary is the chair of the fair. Coordinator, whatever. I like to call it chair of the fair. It has kind of a ring to it, you know. But anyway, she's the lady in charge of the fair, and she's also secretary for the Tucson the Peace Center Board. Thank you. And Robert is a board member and has his own show. Talk a little bit about your show, and then we'll get into the topic of the Peace Center Fair.
Well, Mary hasn't introduced herself yet, so.
Well, I'm going to get to her.
Okay. I'm Robert Royce. I have been on the Peace Center board for, I'm losing track of how many years. You recruited me, what, about 7 years ago?
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. I enjoy going to Peace Center board meetings and hanging out with good people. I don't do that much. Everybody seems to be in control of their own thing, so I sort of fill in the gaps here and there, and I'm sort of becoming institutional knowledge because I'm still there. But I also do a TV show here. 2 weeks ago, tomorrow, I recorded a show in Studio B next door, which ran last Friday in this exact same time slot we're sitting in right now.
Okay.
And I covered Jefferson. The name of my show is Thomas Jefferson Still Lives. And I literally channeled Jefferson. The show that's running right now, 12:30 on Tuesdays for the next 3 or 4 weeks, next 3 weeks at least. I literally showed off the fourth paragraph of Jefferson's first inaugural address, put it to music.
Wow.
And then I came back and I literally read it item by item as I showed it off on the screen and analyzed it, gave my opinion on what Jefferson meant.
Okay.
And what it means to our lives in the 21st century. So anybody who's interested, you can check that out. Just set your recorder for 12:30 on any Tuesday, and I'll have a new live show on the 27th.
Okay.
Once again in this time slot, but in the studio next door.
And Mary, you have an interesting story, and even recently, you were on a walk. We were talking about climate.
Yes.
Okay. Talk a little bit about the walk you participated in about climate.
I participated in the Great March for Climate Action. It was a group of people who walked across the country from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., meeting all along the way with people in communities who were affected by climate change. Different segments of the country faced different challenges, but nonetheless, they all had stories that they wanted to share, that they wanted to send to Washington. So a subset of our group just met with President Obama's top climate advisors. So the work continues, and I take the advice that Emily had to offer and Physicians for Responsibility to heart. I think that Tucson has a leg up on community and connectedness, the cohesion that Emily spoke of. I think we've got it strong here, and that is something that is so evident at the Peace Fair, and Music Festival that we're here to talk about today.
Yeah. And I remember you being on a show years ago on mediation.
Yes, conflict mediation,
You
previous.
You taught it at U of A.
Yes, I was a University of Arizona instructor and at ASU as well, and taught conflict mediation.
Good for you.
So try to take that advice to heart and soothe the conflict and Love, love, love a little bit more. All about peace.
And one other thing, I'm amazed that you took your dog and the dog kept up with you.
I
On that
can give
walk.
you something even more amazing. My dog was elected to the board of directors
my
for the
goodness.
climate march along with me. I insisted that if I were going to run for the board, I had to have my dog Birdie as a partner because she'd been with me the whole way. And we were.
And you walked from where to where?
From Phoenix to Lafayette Park outside the White House.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
And we're
lot.
going to have environmental groups at the Peace Fair as well.
But, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, just going to tell the audience that this is the largest gathering in southeast Arizona of peace, social justice, and environmental groups. It's a day of fun in the sun, outdoors, listening to good music, and meeting up with friends old and new.
Now, we had said that Tom, the president, would be here, but it didn't work out, and Robert was nice enough to
Let's get this
fill in.
straight once and for all. Tom is camera shy. You can talk him into doing it, but it's no fun for him because I've watched him sitting in this exact same position, and the hat pulled down over his head, hiding his eyes, and he's not happy on camera, unlike me, who
But I would like to point out that he does a fantastic job behind the camera, lining up
he
our
lined
music.
up this music, which I'm going to
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
read soon.
Well-
But yeah, Tom's been a great president. I'm not knocking Tom. I love the man. I'm just saying, you should understand. He doesn't like being on camera.
Well, I got it. I got it. I won't ask him again unless he volunteers.
Good plan. That's
And if he volunteers, that's different.
learning from experience.
Well, I try to learn.
And did I hear your 10th anniversary is coming up, Stuart?
In April.
In
For this show,
April.
for this series, yes.
But you were doing shows before you did this one.
Oh yeah, I've been doing shows since 1995. But in this series, World Harmony Can It Happen, the first show we did was in April of 2005.
I hear you choking up.
I am.
This is our 33rd annual Peace Fair.
I know.
And it's always held on the final Saturday of February. So if you miss it this year, if you're seeing this broadcast too late, plan on 2016 because we'll be back again.
Yeah, and you will be seeing this if you tune in March. You're still going to be seeing the Peace Fair will be over. But
Right.
next year's Peace Fair, you
Coming
can
up.
look ahead to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what the Peace Fair. Now we've got a number of still pictures that are going to
great.
be showing. Thanks to you, Mary, and thanks to Alice.
Alice does
know?
great work. She's our editor for the
yeah.
monthly calendar
calendar,
that
right.
we send out every
Right.
month. It's got a list of all of the happenings in the, well, not all of, because space is limited, but peacecalendar.org will take you to the website with a lot of listings of events around town that people can get out and
This is our primary duty, is putting out this. It's not a primary duty, it's one of the three things we do, is 9 months out of the year we put out a peace calendar so that people involved in social justice, environmental issues, et cetera, peace and justice issues can list their events in our peace calendar so people can thumb through it on a weekly basis and see what's going on around town. Either online or you could actually get on a mailing list and have a copy physically mailed to you. We don't publish in June, July, or August, but the other 9 months of the year we have a really up-to-date, easy to read, attractive peace calendar. The other thing we do is obviously the Peace Fair, which is coming up. That's why we're here tonight promoting it. But we also do an annual spaghetti dinner at the First Christian Church on the last Saturday in January, which was last Saturday. It came out very nice.
Well, unless you're watching this at a rebroadcast date. It was
well, last Saturday of
last
January.
Saturday
That
from
stays
as of
solid.
today, when we're sitting here
Yeah,
speaking,
that's
it was
solid.
last Saturday.
Yeah.
If you're watching this in
March.
in March,
Yeah.
then
Look forward to it next year.
yeah.
Okay. Mary, how did you get involved in the Peace Center?
Oh, I believe strongly in peace, social justice, and I think a friend invited me to the meetings, and I kept going, and I take compulsive notes.
And you're
and
great
that
at
got
it.
me elected secretary.
Absolutely, and I'd vote for you again as long as you want to run.
She's been an excellent secretary.
Well,
You
thank
have been
you.
an excellent secretary.
I do like to
And
be
when
of
you
service.
were gone all summer, there was a great topic of debate whether you were ever going to come back.
We were glad you did.
We didn't want to lose you.
Tucson is home. I mean,
Tell you
Tucson.
about it. She's going to fall in love with somebody and move to Kansas or somewhere, you know. and it's
no.
like, that's not good for us. It may be good for you.
Well, let me share something, and then I'd like to get on the Peace Fair itself, but this is very related to the Peace Fair.
Okay.
Originally, I had a life-changing experience, which in my 60s, I'm 73 now. My mother had died, my dad had died, my half-sister had died, and a good friend died.
Oh my.
But in 2004, my mom and a good friend died. My dad and my half-sister died between 98 and then. And I was missing my mother on Thanksgiving. And I thought, what do I want to do the rest of my life? I don't have parents now, a generation between me and eternity or death, however you look at it. And I thought I'd like to do something for peace, but I thought, what can I do for peace? It's not like I'm very famous, rich, or powerful. Well, years ago, a friend of mine urged me to start a job club. I had had a hospital personnel background back east, and he recommended, I'd been a director of personnel at a place called Jewish Memorial Hospital, among titles and places I worked. But eventually that closed, so I came out here. Anyway, so I ran a job club. I just had meetings in libraries. We had enough people, we formed a board. We became a nonprofit tax-exempt organization. I thought maybe I'll do that for peace. So I started having discussion groups. The first one was at a church I was attending, a rather liberal church, Grace St. Paul's Episcopal Church. I've gone to St. Francis, but this was at Grace St. Paul's Episcopal Church. The other 4 were at libraries. In the meantime, Carolyn Brown, who's director of the show, and my brother said, why don't you put something on television about this topic, you know, world harmony. At that time, it was a discussion on world harmony, is it possible? My brother was the one that came up with world harmony, can it happen? That sounded more practical to me, so I went with that. But now, we've been doing the show now, it'll be 10 years in April. And so it was very meaningful to me, and it's been meaningful to me. And if you ever watch the show from the very beginning, you'll see after the basic beginning, this program is dedicated to the lives and memory of those 4 people. I can't help being emotional about it, so forgive me. But now I want to get into fun thing. Well, not the fair itself, okay?
Well, with the lead in like that, Stuart.
I've been getting very serious. I don't want to bring down the thing.
Well, okay, I've got a transition.
Wait,
I've
I
got
got to
to
say this one thing, and I'll let you do the transition.
Okay.
I had 2 shows trying out that.
Oh, did you?
I had a show with a discussion group of people who had come to the discussion groups. The second time, before I had a show, after that first show, I went to the Peace Fair. And this is why this was very relevant. I got so excited about all the interesting people I met and all the things they were trying to do to better the world. I couldn't wait to do another show. I just couldn't wait. In fact, I had a show lined up, but I moved it back. I just can't wait. So I had another show with people who were involved in the peace movement. And then I decided to change my show. Now, I did allow that person who I moved back to do that other show for one more time. But after that, World Harmony, as Can It Happen, started out of that, and it was in April of 2005. So now go on. But I just wanted to tell our audience how exciting it was for me to go there. Now you go ahead.
I was going to say near-death experience. We've got a group called IANDS that is focused on near-death experiences that are regular members of the Peace Fair. And we've got so many good people who come out to the Peace Fair.
Oh, yeah.
And others who will be there this year.
Yeah, this year.
Physicians for Social Responsibility.
All
Emily was a subgroup of Physicians for Social Responsibility. They've got a booth there.
Great.
Your friends, the Tucson Raging Grannies, are singing, and a lot of their membership overlaps with the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom.
Yeah. They're a subgroup
They'll
of
be
it, actually.
out at the fair. The Arizona Friends of Tibet, another of our board members, Mary Kay.
And we're
is with
showing
that group.
pictures as you speak. which
Okay,
is fine.
good.
This is
That's
last
the Raging
year's.
Grannies there. Speaking of, they are always a hoot.
They're incredible. They're very entertaining. They take songs, the tunes of various songs, and put their own words to it, and they're very
Right.
clever in doing it. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy them.
Well, also throughout the day, we're going to be giving away lots of raffle prizes.
Oh yes.
We've received a lot of gifts from the community that then we pass along to new and renewing members of the Peace Fair. There's a list, and some of these are just stalwarts in the
Why
community.
don't you read a few of them?
Well, Antigone's books, they're a cornerstone for 4th Avenue. They keep that running. Arizona Sonoran Desert Museum. If you have out-of-town visitors, there's no better place to take them.
It's one of the 10 best zoos in the United States I've read.
Bicus, they do so much to get people out of their cars and onto bicycles. They gave a $50 gift certificate. The Children's Museum, so many experiential gifts that maybe you don't take the time to do in your day-to-day life, but this gives you the reason to get out. You notice some individuals have given prizes too. If your audience wants to give a prize that can then be included in the raffle, we urge you to do that. They can get in touch with me at mdcamp, that's MDECAMP at q.com, and they can get in touch with me and we'll get you listed as a donor in the monthly calendar, on our website, and at the fair.
Okay, well, you mentioned a few of the people that are going to. Did you mention Veterans for Peace? Because I think they usually show up.
They do. I didn't mention them, but I was going to ask Robert who his favorite groups are. Who do you like to see there?
I just enjoy the ambiance. I don't have any particular favorites. Actually, I hang out at the Peace Center booth for most of the time I'm there, and I enjoy visiting with people that come, and then I'll do a couple trips around and check out everybody's booth.
And typically, AZ4 Normal is your neighbor up there. They've always got the biggest and
I don't
the
know how
best
much
booth.
detail I should give you guys, but I had to like move my head to keep from getting high.
And we've got Just Coffee there.
Oh, they've all got cards, I'm sure.
I'm sure they do. Yes, but they're a wonderful participant. We've got Arizonans for Gun Safety. That's a relatively new group. They've been around just for a couple of years.
Glad they exist.
Yes.
That's a good thing, I
Yes. The Global Art Project, Citizens for Solar, Jobs with Justice, Latin American Committee. We're going to have all sorts of kids' activity, Maggie's face
Let's
painting.
talk about that too. Yeah, because that's key. You could bring your kids. You could bring your dog too, by the way.
Yep,
Well-behaved dogs are always welcome.
on leashes, of course.
Well, it's the law in our parks, and that goes without saying. I only use the word well-behaved because in the past we've had no problems at all with dogs. And that's the only rule we have.
And we don't want any problems with dogs.
Exactly.
No. Do we know the entertainment that's going to be performing?
I only know it. I've got it right
All
here,
right,
and
Robert,
I'm
why
going
don't
to
you
read
share
it.
it? Because there's a stage too, with the booths.
It's outdoor performance
Yeah,
stage.
We have
It's-
5 hours of high-quality live music, which was recruited by Tom, our president, who is not here, as for reasons we've already explained. He's not very good on camera, but he's really good at lining up good music. Starting at 11 o'clock, One Heartbeat. At 12 noon, Little Laura. At 12:30, Mesquite Fire. At 12:45, our own Tucson Raging Grannies.
All right.
At 1 o'clock, Baba Marimba. At 1:45, Sacred Space. At 2 o'clock, Carlos and the Kind Souls. At 2:45, we will have Charlie King.
Oh, really?
Really?
Good. All right.
For only 15 minutes, but still.
Well, still.
At 3 o'clock, we've got Planet Jam, and at 3:45, the closing ceremony with Access Tucson's own Queen Elizabeth, who people who've been watching this facility's programming used to do a show here, and I think she's still involved on some level, but she actually used to produce a show outdoors and edit it together, and her work was always very good. I haven't seen anything that she's done recently. But she will be there closing the show. So literally 5 hours of solid music. It's all high quality, great ambiance of having hundreds of nice people in their best mood hanging out. We'll have booths with people showing off their goods and showing us what they do. And all in all, it should be a lot of fun.
Looks like a lot of fun, doesn't it?
Oh,
Look at those
it
smiles.
is. It is. Plus, we have food places too. Why don't you talk
Yes.
about food? Who people can get food?
La Andita will be there. Love and Spoonful is bringing their hot dog cart that has soy dogs as an option too.
Okay.
The Green Heart Bakery, they do vegan, gluten-free, very healthful foods. Revolutionary Grounds will be there.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Are they having sandwiches as well as coffee? Or
Yes.
okay, good. Very
Well,
good.
I think they're bringing maybe pastry treats and coffee,
pastry.
but I'm
okay,
not
fine.
sure.
All right. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. Well, let me see. We covered entertainment. We covered booths. We covered food. What have we left out? Oh, can we talk a little bit more about the kids' things?
The
I know you
activities,
covered them a bit.
We've got
but-
face painting, sign making, labyrinth that's laid out on the ground. Midway through, we're going to have a whimsy parade,
Oh, okay.
also with Queen Elizabeth.
Okay.
Yeah, and last year there were kids with hula hoops and running back and forth, playing tag and dancing in front of the stage.
Yeah. You know, if you could envision, I don't know if we have been there, but if you haven't been to the bandshell area of where this takes place, of course the entertainment's on the stage, but the booths are like a horseshoe.
A double horseshoe.
Well, I was getting to there.
Oh, sorry.
And around that horseshoe, there's another horseshoe of
Yeah.
booths. And they're all facing inward, so you can go, back and forth easily. But it's a rather wide horseshoe, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Peacecalendar.org.
Oh, and it's free to attend. It's absolutely free to attend. The entertainment's free to hear. The walking around in the fresh air. Hopefully, it'll be a nice day. And it was last year. It was gorgeous last year. And the whole thing. Now, I say not everything's free. If you're going to order food or that you charge for that.
Food is not free.
Food is not free, and there may
There will be
some.
beverages available also, but once again, they're not free. But none of it's overpriced. It's like $5 and some change for a
Yeah.
meal.
And we want people to like us on Facebook too. The address is up there on the screen, but please do promote it, invite your friends, come out and have a wonderful time.
Also, if you want to participate and set up a booth, it's not too late to join us and show off your stuff. We are very open-minded. I mean, it's an exercise in free speech and all of that. We don't invite certain groups like...
Don't mention them. I don't want you to
I'm
say.
not going to mention them. They're,
We
I'm
want
not gonna mention
peace-loving
anybody.
people.
There you go.
We are a peace fair, and we all want to get along.
If you're,
and-
if you're lobbying for an end to gun restrictions or whatever, you probably don't belong with our group. But if you're dealing with peace, social justice issues, things like that, you can set up a booth for a
Well, some of us are
nominal
for-
charge.
Some of us are for gun restrictions, but
No, I'm saying,
Oh, I thought-
if you don't believe in gun restrictions, if you believe in the
I
proliferation of
misunderstood. I
guns,
misunderstood.
then you
It's
probably...
not the gun show.
You probably
No, it's
shouldn't have a
not.
booth at our... Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I
That's what I'm
understand.
saying. Okay.
All right.
We're trying to build cohesion
There
in
you
the
go.
community,
Yeah.
just like Emily spoke of earlier.
Okay. I'm not quite sure. Are we out of time?
We've got 6 minutes according to that clock.
But
Oh,
that
6
clock's
minutes?
not right.
He's
from
saying
what I
3
hear.
minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes. Okay. So what didn't we cover we want to cover?
Where it is, Reed Park, most people know, but it's just north of 22nd Street and just east of Country Club.
Country Club, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a
And
wonderful.
once again, it's on the 28th, Saturday, February 28th, always the last Saturday. And it starts at 11 o'clock, but if you're coming to set up a booth, you should get there a little earlier than that.
First come, first served.
in terms of placement, absolutely.
Placement.
Exactly,
And if
exactly.
people want to be involved in planning, we're having weekly promotional meetings that happen on Thursdays at 3 o'clock at the Global Justice Center,
Which is
225 East 26th Street, down by the Sam Lena Library.
okay. All right.
So those are open to anyone who's interested. We have our board meetings for the Peace Fair on the
This
second
Sunday.
Monday of
That's
The
this
second-
Sunday.
second Monday or second Sunday of every month.
Every month at 6 p.m. at the Ward 3 Council office on Grant.
Usually, but occasionally.
1501.
But check the Peace Calendar online
Peacecalendar.org, yeah.
for the latest, because sometimes it
We
switches.
do go to the Global Justice Center
Yes,
occasionally
occasionally.
for various reasons,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
normally we're at the Ward 3 Council office.
But even walking a day in the park, getting the fresh air. Bring a dog, bring a child, bring whatever you want.
Oh yeah, the people bring their kids and they play and they have fun,
Yeah.
and
Did you mention it's free?
I did. It's free to attend. I mean, you may be buying things there if you want to, but it's free to attend. Even the entertainment's free to hear.
Oh yeah, and lots of raffle prizes too.
And lots of raffle prizes, and you could get raffle tickets at the fair itself.
Right, they look like that.
I'll be selling them
And this many people have
or taking donations for
gotten
them.
theirs. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
donate, I'll
But
tell
see
you
us
what.
at the fair. Come out.
See us at the fair, or I did give you a way you could reach us through this program too, if you'd like, and I can pass the information along. I'm on the board of the Peace Center too, so I can pass it along.
Good thing we're not subject to open meeting law. 3 people gathered together.
Oh, come on. Well, we're not political,
No,
we're-
it's not at all
Fortunately. But anyway. So last comments. I think we got 1 minute.
I just want to thank you for having us on, for the work that you continue to do for peace and social
Yeah, we
justice.
appreciate you
thank you.
spending half of your show every year promoting our Peace Fair, because I think that helps.
Yeah.
Well, actually, until this year, it's been the whole show. But I thought we could cover it.
Well, you're only doing
with
6
2
shows a
people.
year at this point, so it's
Oh.
we're explaining why we're only
Proportionally,
going to have a show. Also, anybody who knows me from my show and wants to, have a chat with me, come and join me and visit with me and all of us at our Peace Center booth.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say, if you're watching this program after February, the Peace Fair has happened already. But if it's still in February, come to the fair the last Saturday of February. This is the year 2015, so this is a current taping of a live show. I guess it's time to say goodnight. I'm watching the credits go by. Thank you, our guests, and thank you, our guests who participated in watching the show and listening.
For having us and doing this.
Well, thank you
Yes.
both for
And
being
for
here.
your